Oh hi, in this presentation you are going to learn how to find the highest common factor of different numbers, right? Now we would also discuss more than one strategies to find highest common factor. Whichever suits your level, you can choose that. We will start with a very basic strategy of finding highest common factor. Now we need to know what highest common factor is. It's actually highest common factor as it says. I mean, it's the biggest common factor in the lists of factors of various numbers. Now factors of a number are those numbers which divide into it. So factors of 12 are all those numbers which have got 12 in the times table, so which actually divide into 12. So factors of 12 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12, because all these numbers have got 12 in the times tables, right? So what we're going to look at is how to find the highest common factor of two numbers using a very common technique. I mean, finding a list of factors, right? So let's try finding highest common factor of let's call 18 and 45. So the first thing what we need to do is we need to write down factors of 18. Now 1 goes into 18 how many times? 18. So I will write down as a pair. Okay, 1 and 18. 2 goes into 18 9 times, and 3 goes into 18 6 times. Very useful technique. I mean, when you use this technique, you are not going to miss a factor, which is a common mistake when people do it. Okay, right. 45 as 45 in. We need to write down the factors of 45. 1 and 45 to start with. 1 and 45. Then we write down 2 doesn't go into 45, being an odd number. So 3 goes into 45 how many times? What is a third of 45? That's 15, right? So 5 goes then. 5 goes 9 times, and I don't think any number between 5 and 9 is going into 45. So these are the factors of 45, right? Now 1 is always going to be a common factor, won't it? But you know, 1 is not considered, okay, because 1 goes into every number, right? Now we've got 3 here, so 3 is a common factor. But when we go further on, we find 9 as the highest common factor, right? Because 9 is the biggest common number in two lists, right? So this is how you find the common factor. Now we can do the same thing with 3 numbers. For example, if I've got 16, 20 and 28, I write down factors of 16, which are 1 and 16, 2 and 8, and 4 goes 4 times, so I don't need to repeat it. That's a square number, so there's a repeating factor in there, right? 20, 21 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. Very nicely. I mean, you can see that there's no gap between 4 and 5. I mean, there's nothing between 4 and 5 which is going to go into 20. All right. Do the same thing with 28. 1 and 28 as a pair, and 2 and 14. 3 doesn't go. 4 and 7, and 5 and 6 don't go into 28. So this is a list now. 1 is common, 2 is common, 4 is common, and I don't see any number after 4 which is common. So 4 is the highest common factor, right? Now highest common factor is 4. So that's the most commonly used technique to find the highest common factor. Now we are going to talk about slightly bigger numbers, right? Let's talk about and for bigger numbers we try to use factor tree. We try to decompose those numbers as a product of prime factors. There's a video available on prime factors. If you are not confident with that, you need to go through that video first, right? So let's try finding highest common factor of 108 and 162, right? So what we need to do is obviously massive numbers, so I'm not going to go through the factors. What I do is I break them down into their prime factors. So 2 and 54 and 54, that should be now 59, and 2 and 27, and then I look for 3 and 9 and 3 and 3, factor 3. Okay, now do the same with 162. I'm not going to write a list yet because we need to put list one on top of the other. So right, so 2 and is 81, yeah, half of 162 is 81, and then 3 goes 27 times, and I think 3 goes 9 times, and then 3 and 3. Right, so these are the prime factors, or prime factors of 162. I will write down these prime factors as a list. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 again, quite a few 3's there. Okay, then I write down these prime factors, so which means it's 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Right, how many numbers are in common? Because how many prime factors are common? The product of those common factors would be the highest common factor. Right, I've got one common here, so I put that down 2. Then that 2 and 3 are not common, so that 3 is common, then that 3 is common, and then that one is common as well, so I put them down once. Right, 3 times 3. When I times these numbers, 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 3 is 18, times 3 is 54. So 54 is the highest common factor of 108 and 162. Right, so this is another technique. Right, there's rather an old method of finding prime factors, very useful though. What you do is, if I will use same numbers, 108 and 162. Right, what I do is I put them down together, 108 and 162, and we will check, what goes into them. So they can both be divided by 2. So when I divide that by 2, I get 54. When I divide that by 2, I get 81. Now, is there any number which goes into these two? I believe 9 goes. Right, you can pick a bigger number, it's not a problem. Okay, so 9 goes, 9 times 6 and 9 times 9. Right, then what goes into them? 3 still goes into them, so 2 and 3. Now multiplying them together, 2 times 9 times 3 will give me the highest common factor, so which is 54. Right, highest common factor is 54. Right, so I've just shown you 3 different ways of finding the highest common factor. You need to use whichever level you're working on. I mean, if you're doing GCSEs and if you're doing foundation level, then the first one, this technique probably is more useful. If you're doing high level maths, then you're expected to know your prime factors, and you're expected to know the product of prime factors. So this is the one you can use, and this is for everyone basically. I mean, anybody can use it. Okay, I hope this would have been useful for you. Thank you for watching.